John Summers is the motoring historian. He was a company car thrashing technology sales rep that turned into a fairly inept sports bike rider. Hailing from California, he collects cars and bikes built with plenty of cheap and fast, and not much reliable. On his show, he gets together with various co-hosts to talk about new and old cars, driving, motorbikes, motor racing, and motoring travel.
Bye, bye, baby, bye, bye. That was all she wrote.
Good day, good morning, good afternoon. It is John Summers, the motoring historian. Look behind the third wall. I'm using a new way of recording this. Is the sound quality going to be any good? Who knows? But look, there's still the snuffling and the rustling of pages and the general un-BBC-ness, isn't it? And now there's that peculiar farting noise, which wasn't me, but was I think it's the vent doors. I'm sat in the Tundra. I think that's the vent doors moving. And I spent a lot of time in the Tundra recently. I've done about 4,000 miles in it now. Gonna talk about that a little bit. Bought 2 bikes in as many weeks. When I was sat by the pool in Mexico, I was thinking, when you get back, you're really going to have to, get your skates on with stuff. But like to do 2 bikes and 3 pods in the space of a month, that is, that's unusual progress for me, candidly. It really is. So you can tell by the title, can't you? This is about the English Gixxer and the LA fires. And so I did go to LA when LA had the fires of 2025, and I guess part of the reason why I wanted to go was I wanted to sort of look at my sort of former stomping ground of Topanga and that. If you rode motorcycles in the LA area, everyone knew the Rock Store, that place up in the canyons there. I was never quite sure where it was. I only ever went there following other people, usually who were faster than me, so I was usually struggling to keep up and arrived like adrenalized and exhausted. But yeah, I rode that area a lot, and that's the area which has burned in the fires, and it's kind of a thing, partly because you know the area, partly because you know people who've been affected by it. It's so the LA fires, obviously that's not the only reason why I was in LA. I won a motorcycle in an auction. That was the main reason why I was there. And when I realized the motorcycle was in Santa Monica, I thought it might have been when I won the auction, but I wasn't completely sure. I didn't really look at the description properly. I'm going to hold up my hand and say that, because it supposedly has frame damage, and I was a bit worried. But when you actually look at the bike, it's a really nice, clean bike, which I paid low money for. However you slice it, I paid low money for it. But it's a third black 89 Gixxer 1100. I know, why do you need 3? I'm not even sure why I need 3, but you pick this stuff up when it comes your way and the price is good. And am I married to each one? The first one very much so. The second one, yes. That third one, yes, less so. I might ride it and think it's awesome. I quite like that it's English, but is a bit rusty. I'll include pictures and I'll include the whole iconic description. I dare say they've probably taken the description down now, but let me see what I can include on it. So yeah, I guess the line that amused me about it in the description was that it ran when they put it in the crate in England, but now it had arrived in Santa Monica, it wasn't running. So did the pickup in Santa Monica, and the traffic is normal traffic, and there was no sign or smell of the fires. I guess it was only a day or 2 after the fires happened. The fires happened in the week, and I went the following weekend. So so the gist of this is to talk a little bit about that trip. So first, I won the Gixxer, right? Great bike, low price. The Slingshots are oil cooled, just like the Slabbies, and I live in regret of letting things like Capris and cheap Alfa Romeos and Lancias, Fiat Strada 130 TCs, I live in bitter regret of letting those things go. Well, with the bikes you don't have to, because they'll all fit in a small space. So you can have a dozen Capris if you want. You can have a dozen muscle cars, and that's what I think I've tried to do here. But as I say, with this 1100, I'm going to see how it feels. They are hard to ride, the Gixxers. You've heard me say this on the pod before, but it's worth sort of falling down that rat hole a little bit. What do I mean by that? They are uncomfortable and difficult to use. The foot pegs are high. The bikes which run most enthusiastically are the ones with the race carburetors on them, and those bikes have stiff throttles and stiff clutches. When you first sit on it, you're like, oh, it's stiff, but I can handle it. But when you have to live in the city and you're through stupid stop signs and you're exercising that clutch, oh my word, your left hand, your fingers, my fingers are done before I've even got out of the city riding them. So when you've got your legs tucked up and the clutch is heavy, and if the bike's got Mikuni flat slides, the throttle is going to be sticky too. It's really in sharp contrast to those two 2005 bikes I have, the ZX10 and the K5 Gixxer. Both of those are fuel injected. They've got still high foot pegs, but it's less of an uncompromising riding position. It's a better riding position. The bike feels more controllable and flickable, and the controls are just that much smoother. The clutches are lighter. The ZX10, there's a funny lag when you turn the throttle. It's a knackered 28,000 mile bike, isn't it? So it has its foibles, but but once you get used to the fact that there's a bit of like play in the throttle, it's smooth and easy to use, like a microwave oven to use. The 80s bikes, they are not like that. There's an organicness and a viscerality about them which is really rewarding, but you just like, you ride them around the block and you're like, fucking hell, that's all I need of that. The thought of any kind of freeway work on it, I'm just like, I just can't imagine it now. It's I guess that's 51, isn't it? Not 51, imagining I'm still 31. I won the Gixxer. It was in Santa Monica. Obviously, Highway 101, the normal way I'd go in, that's a longer drive, like 6 hours rather than 5 hours kind of thing, but that way was also potentially fucked by the fires. And the guys in Santa Monica where I was picking up, which is, I'll talk about them in a minute, they were like, everything's fine, come along. So I was like, all right. So I drove the road less travelled, my long rambling 4 hour, and I'm sorry about that, I did that in 2 episodes. I should have just done shorter ones, but I should have just broken it up into 2 episodes. But anyway, the Pebble episode, in that I talk about a road trip that I took down Highway 25 south of Hollister. This is in Northern California, close to the Bay Area. But, it's a really remote, really cool, really picturesque, empty road. And I realised, looking on the map, it ran parallel all the way with Highway 5. So either way, the long and short is I did 25, then 198 to Coalinga, if you look on the map, and then 33 south. And then I stayed in Grapevine, which is... where I stayed many, many years ago when I rode a Harley Softail up PCH and then down Highway 5 at this time of year in cold weather, and I wasn't expecting the cold weather, and I was, oh my word, I was fucking cold on this Harley. And the weather it was raining in places, and it was literally run uncomfortably fast in the lane with the cars, or run on the bumpy piece of freeway on the right lane that the trucks were using. And I didn't know at that time just how bumpy the right lane is, that you're much better just getting left and holding the throttle open. The bumps, oh my word, the bumps and the cold, yeah, that was anyway. I stayed in Grapevine after that horrific ride down Highway 5, and in the morning it was absolutely beautiful and crisp, and I rode up Grapevine and over the top, and there's a lake and it's beautiful and it's picturesque, and then you arrive in the hellhole, well, the City of Angels, don't you? Not a hellhole, it's a awesome place. But I'm digressing, aren't I? So 25 beautiful, could really recommend it. 198 twisty and awesome, more of a road for the Fiesta. But I filmed the sunset. It's, you know, it's California the Beautiful. And 33 was kind of boring and straight. 25 was the find of the road trip. Anyway, then I rocked up at Iconic Motorsports, the blokes that I'd bought the Gixxer off. I'll include a link to them. They were everything that the website makes them look as if they are. You know, a bunch of guys really enthusiastic about 80s, 90s sports bikes. A few Harleys there. Yeah, a few earlier things there, but really an emphasis on the kind of stuff that I really enjoy. Warehouse in a nice part of Santa Monica. Inside the warehouse, a workshop at one end, bikes which have either been on auction or on a buy it now, or they're getting ready for sale, knocking around on the sales floor, on the floor there, offices at the side, and then like a little upstairs, like kind of museum that had just some really awesome bikes there. The kind of green frame Ducati old David Gooding always has. They had a 900 SS, which I, knew nothing about, but I, it had a blue frame, but I preferred its gold wheels kind of thing. That's how ignorant I am about Ducatis of that era, Ducatis in general. I've got to be candid. But what did tickle my fancy, a Katana that they had, which had been looking like it had been seriously modified and really looked like it was the business. That bike really had my look about it. A number was knocked around that was a long way out of my budget, sadly. So they helped me get the Gixxer 1100 loaded, which I was worried about. I mean, candidly, like, I'm shit with the whole business of pushing bikes up ramps, and I bought a chock, but the chock didn't go in the bed, probably because of the bed liner. But the dude was like, Corey Chris, I'll call him out, like, great guy. He helped me load using 10-foot ramps. I'd got 6-foot ones. He helped me loaded with 10-foot ones. And he was like, whatever, just put the chock against the back of the bed and it'll be fine. But the suspension doesn't even sag on the truck. And when I was driving later, although I like to potter in the truck a little bit, I like to do like 65 in the right hand lane rather than my usual faster than that in the left hand lane. But it would have done bloody 95 miles an hour, probably more than that, with this Gixxer in the back of it. It didn't know it was there. Couldn't resist rolling around PCH after I got loaded up in Santa Monica. PCH itself was deserted. It was about lunchtime on a Saturday, and it was absolutely deserted. So, although Santa Monica felt absolutely normal, the moment you dropped out of Santa Monica and down onto PCH, it was like 28 days. It was like absolutely deserted. So you drove along there thinking at some point the road is bound to be closed. It just has to be. And sure enough, Soldiers and Hummers. I want to say, I can't remember the street that they forced me to turn up, but so they made me like turn inland, and then I just like ran along where all of the streets that went up into the hills there just had Soldiers and Hummers, and move along there, sir, and unless you're a resident, go straight there, sir. And that was cool, interesting. Where that sort of dumped me out, just as I was thinking, I've sort of seen enough of my sort of fire exploration, such as it was, because I don't want to like poke around in a more macabre way than that. I more wanted to go to just see how it felt, you know, and you know, as I say, Santa Monica was business as usual. That's how Santa Monica felt. You know, and the 405 was open and quiet and no smoke in the air. The guy did say that there was a lot more dust on the bikes than there would normally be because of the fires. But you know, that seemed pretty trivial, really, in comparison to what was happening just 5 miles away. Really kind of bonkers. So I guess it all burned because it's all A, up in the hills, and B, all of the houses were like bigger houses that were on plots of land that had trees and grass rather than, you know, concrete. I mean, that's the hypothesis that I formed, driving along there, being moved along by soldiers less than half my age with machine guns. I have to do better on these road trips because I had a bit of a low blood sugar level moment, and eventually organised myself a subway, got myself out on the road. Got as far, I was like, there's no way I'm doing 5 like on a weekend night. I'm just like, it's just too boring. I just can't. But once it gets dark, there's nothing to see. So I thought, what am I going to try and do? And I thought, I've never been to Ojai. I wonder if I could go to Ojai. I've heard about Ojai. Yeah, so I ran up 405 into the 5 as far as the 126, which I think is it. Anyway, I trickled along that 126 and eventually I ended up in Ventura, which I know I could have just gone along the freeway for, but you know, if you have a look at the roads, it's better to stay on the main road than it is to cut down onto 101 on that, I think, Highway 150, the really like windy one. I mean, it would have been good in the day on a motorcycle, but I didn't want to be doing it in a pickup truck with a load late at night when I was already, you know, I already had like a lot of miles under my belt for the day. So Ojai, winding road down into almost Alpine, was already dark. You know, the sun was setting as I was there, and there were like people parked up enjoying the sunset. And you know, I was like, whatever. I parked up as well, and you know, finished up my Subway sandwich from earlier in the day. And you know, beautiful sunset, and you know, I did think of the Alps a little bit as I was looking at, you know, the town nestled in the valley kind of thing. Yeah, and it was cutesy California town when I drove down into it. I mean, it was dark, so I couldn't see much. Yeah, I don't want to prejudice you about visiting Ojai one way or another. I'm just saying it seemed like a nicey town to me.
Reach for the sky.
So I did say to the iconic guys, prices are down, right? And they went, yeah. And yeah, they are. You know, they really are. And it's so funny that when the prices go up, you're like, great, my shit's worth more. And when the prices go down, you're like, great, I can buy more easily. You know, stuff that I couldn't normally afford, I can afford. Now it's time to buy. And that's sort of how I've been feeling. It's not a coincidence. It's January, and I was like, you know, itchy to do something because I knew the prices are, you know, low in this period.
So this brings me to a slightly, you know, earlier conclusion than I normally come to one of these things. But obviously the acquisition of a new bike was something I wanted to talk about. And the fact that I'd been and looked at these LA fires, I felt that was worth talking about as well. And it seemed natural to sort of combine the two into this one episode. Although, as I was putting it together, I did find myself thinking, is this really worth talking about? But you might wonder if anything that I talk about on these pods is really worth talking about. So I guess you do. You probably think it's worthwhile because you've got right through to the end, haven't you? But this is all the most ridiculous behind the third wall naval contemplation. So I'm going to end it like that. Thank you, Drive Through.
This episode has been brought to you by Grand Touring Motorsports as part of our Motoring Podcast Network. For more episodes like this, tune in each week for more exciting and educational content from organizations like the Exotic Car Marketplace, the Motoring Historian, Break Fix, and many others. If you'd like to support Grand Touring Motorsports and the Motoring Podcast Network, sign up for one of our many sponsorship tiers at www.patreon.com/GT Motorsports. Please note that the content, opinions, and materials presented and expressed in this episode are those of its creator, and this episode has been published with their consent. If you have any inquiries about this program, please contact the creators of this episode via email or social media as mentioned in the episode.